Hermer sounds pretty excited about the Bible.
Yep, there we go. Hermer in Brooklyn, New York. You're on with Jenna and Matt. How are you?
Hi.
Oh, I'm fine. Hi.
Hello?
Yeah, I just wanted to... hello?
There's some weird
Hello?
echo.
Should I put on speaker?
No, I wouldn't, but if you're listening to the stream, you should not be anywhere near that. But go ahead. What's the question or comment?
Yeah, I wanted to argue that the Bible is for science and not against it.
What do you mean for science? You like the Bible is in favor of we should do science?
It supports science in some way.
Okay, I don't care.
Oh, okay. But can I share my thoughts?
Well, given that it's hard to hear you, and I've never said that the Bible doesn't support science in some way, the point is that some of the claims in the Bible are in opposition to the findings of science.
Yeah, but in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 6, it says avoid any oppositions to science.
It said what?
It says avoid oppositions to science.
There's a
1
void.
Timothy chapter 6.
Here, let me pull
He's
it
looking
up.
it up.
In the King James Version.
Yeah, okay, well,
How do you know that's the good one?
That just came up.
Don't mind me.
yeah, I think the biggest problem I'm having is that there's some kind of weird echo or whatever, but which verse?
1 chapter 6.
That's the chapter. What verse?
No. 1 Timothy 6, verses 27, I believe.
Verses 20. Well, there is no 27.
No, like somewhere in the end it says avoid oppositions to science.
Okay.
James Version.
I'm looking. But let's just say you're right. Avoid opposition to science. What's that mean?
That means to not go against science, to like support science in any way possible, to keep the world going.
Okay. Well, is it to keep the word? I don't know. But
So because it says that means that everything in this book is proven to be scientifically accurate. That's what that means, just because it says that.
I think.
That's what you
And not
think.
only that, Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt.
And you think that actually happened?
Yep.
What evidence do you have that Lot's wife was turned to a pillar of salt?
Yeah, but my sweat tastes like salt too. And every human in this planet, sweat tastes like salt too.
So because you think that sweat... Hold on. Let's see if we're following you real quick, because there's a lot of echo. Are you saying that because sweat tastes like salt, that means that a person was turned into salt?
Yes, in the past, but not now.
Yeah, that's not science you're doing, and it's nothing remotely like science.
That is science. It's supernatural science.
There's no such thing as supernatural science. That's people making claims about the supernatural and labeling it science, but that's not what science is. Science is necessarily based in methodological naturalism, and so it doesn't make proclamations about the supernatural at all. And the fact that sweat may taste salty in no way demonstrates that a book that claims that Lot's wife turned into salt is accurate.
I mean, to me, I think it's accurate.
Okay. Well,
Can you prove it?
I can't prove it, but if you see me face to face, I believe I could show that God exists.
How?
why would it need to be face-to-face? And to answer Jenna's question, how?
Because God could somehow shed his light on me, something like that.
Something like that. That's proof?
I mean, yep, that's proof. If you see me face to face, I believe you'll see the proof of God's existence.
Wait, say that again?
Have other people seen you face-to-face?
Yes, they have seen me face to face, and they believe that God exists.
So literally everyone who's ever seen you face-to-face believes that God exists.
Correct.
Wow.
But my head turned back, and then you was irrational, just like when Lot's wife had her head turned back.
Does it only work in person, or could you like post a YouTube video and then everybody could see your face and we'd all be convinced that God exists?
I'll prefer in the street. Someone see me face to face in the street, and they'll see that God exists.
Oh, so you're walking down the street, and literally anybody who's seen you walking down the street believes in God?
Yes.
Wait, do you seriously believe this stuff? Are you
true.
kidding?
I don't think you're serious.
I'm serious.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
I don't think that for somebody to say that they sincerely believe that they're walking down the street and therefore everybody that they look in the face believes in God.
Yeah, I don't believe. Well, it's hard to say that somebody doesn't actually believe something because you have no idea whether or not somebody's particularly stable or rational or I mean, we're just taking live calls here.
That's true.
And there's almost nothing that someone could call it. This is Poe's law to say you couldn't come up with a fake belief about religion that would be impossible for somebody to believe. But science or the scientific methods. First of all, they don't make any claims for or against the supernatural. They just don't get to consider it. There's nothing that is like supernatural science. It's this study of the supernatural isn't in the realm of the sciences yet. Maybe it will be once somebody can actually demonstrate some mechanisms or show that things happen. But saying that because sweat is salty, that confirms that Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt. That's just bizarre.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm just skeptical about believing this part is this: we do get troll callers, and so it's not that I think that is just such a ridiculous thing that nobody could ever believe it. It's just that I'm maybe I am saying that. I think that was a troll caller.
Yeah, and so I skimmed through 1 Timothy and didn't find anything, but I also did a quick Google search about what the Bible says about science, and I'm finding a ton of verses. I'm scrolling through rather quickly just to make sure that I, don't get it wrong. But here, it's a website talking about what the Bible has to say about science, and I'm not seeing anything that's remotely from 1 Timothy yet. There's a ton of little passages that people are. Oh, there's one in 2 Timothy. Except that's not about science. So this is a Christian website that is making a list of what the Bible has to say about science. And they went with 2 Timothy 3:16, which is the all scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. That has nothing to do with science. And so now even this source here is dubious. So yeah, I couldn't find the verse you were talking about.
Well, the call screener wrote that they said that they've called Talk Heathen before and they think he's genuine, that he's brought up the wife and sweat thing. So it's just hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I skimmed through. There's also a message here. 1 Timothy 6:20. Oh, Timothy, keep that which is committed to thee by trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and opposition of science. So yeah, that's a letter from Paul to Timothy saying, don't oppose science. Cool. And the thing is, he called in because he seemed to think that we thought the Bible was telling people don't believe science.
Yeah.
And that's not a position I would have ever advocated for.
It's just not a resourceful thing that I would go to if I wanted to learn about science.
Yeah. And so when it comes to, instruction to not stand in opposition to science, maybe you should do some studying about scientific methods and how we go about testing stuff, because at no point would any reasonable scientist say, hey, you know what? Sweat's salty.
Right.
I think that confirms that Lot's wife, because what's the connection to Lot's wife and the story? And none of that. We're spending way too much time.
Well, but just to be fair, just because it could have been a genuine caller, and if it is, I'm sorry that I wrote you off. But maybe look into the biology behind sweat and why it tastes like salt. And if maybe talk to a biologist, or maybe get on, a scientific research site and try to figure out if it is possible for a human being to turn into a pile of salt, and if there's any evidence for that.
Yeah. For me, it's like when they say that the rainbow is proof of the flood. So here's the thing for him to think about. Before Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt, was sweat salty? are you suggesting that God turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt, and from then on, and it would have been nice maybe if in the Bible it said,
I see what you're saying.
and that is why sweat is salty, and it still wouldn't prove what he thinks it proves.
No.